From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. This is Dateline Malacañang. After his attendance at the Philippine Pavilion for World Expo 2025 in Osaka, Japan, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Monday will be inspecting several places in the province of Lanao del Sur. The President is scheduled to first visit the Marawi port at the City Hall complex in the village of Fort, City of Marawi. The Marawi port that was destroyed during the October 17, 2017 siege is being restored through the government's Marawi Recovery, Rehabilitation, and Peace Building Program, or MRRP. The project covers the construction of facilities such as a backup area of about 8,000 square meters, a one-story passenger terminal building with 132 seating capacity of about 265 square meters, a one-story fish port, and a berthing facility for fast craft and a roll-on, roll-off, or ro-ro ramp. President Marcos is also scheduled to inspect two temporary learning spaces, or TLS, which are used by students in the village Sagonsongan, as well as the Marawi Integrated School located in the town of Moncado Colony. The Chief Executive will also lead the inauguration of the Marawi City General Hospital, or MCGH, in Datonaga Village.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. returned to the country on Sunday evening following a 4-day working visit to Osaka, Japan, where he secured new investment commitments and launched the Philippine Pavilion for World Expo 2025. The plane carrying the President and his delegation landed in Manila around 6 in the evening. In his arrival statement, President Marcos said the delegation was able to secure new opportunities that will create jobs, bring in investments, and help improve the lives of Filipinos. The Chief Executive inaugurated the Philippine Pavilion at the World Expo 2025 in Osaka, emphasizing the country's commitment to innovation, culture, and sustainability. Key deals announced include a partnership between Canadevia Corporation and Philippine Ecology Systems Corporation for a waste-to-energy project, and a green shipbuilding initiative by Tsuneshi Group in Cebu, which will construct the world's first methanol dual-fueled Kamsar Max bulk carrier. The President said these projects will generate jobs and position the Philippines as a leader in clean energy and green shipping. President Marcos also met with officials of the Japan Tourism Agency, Japan Association of Travel Agents, Japan-Philippines Tourism Council, Kansai Airports, and airline companies Philippine Airlines and Cebu Pacific to enhance tourism cooperation and create more employment opportunities for Filipino workers. Another highlight of the visit was a meeting with the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency to explore collaborations in space technology aimed at improving disaster monitoring, agricultural support, and community safety. The President concluded his trip by meeting with members of the Filipino community in Osaka, where he thanked them for representing the country with dignity, professionalism, and compassion that continue to bring pride to the country. President Marcos's visit comes ahead of the 70th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the Philippines and Japan in 2026. The two nations established formal ties in 1956 and have since maintained robust economic, political, and cultural partnerships.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. over the weekend has pledged to continue protecting Philippine territory, saying he would not allow any foreign power to seize even an inch of the country's domain. In the latest episode of his podcast, the president reaffirmed his administration's commitment to assert the country's sovereign rights over the West Philippine Sea, or WPS. President Marcos said the administration continues to protect the sovereignty of the Republic, defend territory of the Republic, and protect and defend the people of the Republic. The chief executive stressed that while he does not want trouble with any foreign encroachers, he would not allow them to harass his fellow Filipinos, particularly the fisherfolk.
We did not yield. We continue to protect the sovereignty of the Republic. We continue to defend the territory of the Republic. And we continue to protect and defend the people of the Republic. And hindi naman tayo nakikipag-away. Pero wag niyong binabangga yung mga mangingisda. Hindi ba? Wag niyong kami hinaharang dun sa teritoryo namin. Yun, ipaglalaban talaga namin yan. Because kung ibigay mo yan, bibigay mo ng, like they say, you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So you cannot allow it even the 1 inch.
The country's marine resources, President Marcos on November 8, 2024 signed Republic Act or RA 12064, the Philippine Maritime Zones Act, and RA 12065, the Philippine Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act. RA 12064 delineates the maritime zones under the jurisdiction of the Philippines, including internal waters, archipelagic waters, territorial sea, contiguous zone, exclusive economic zone or EEZ, and continental shelf to establish legal basis for the conduct of social, economic, commercial, and other activities in the areas. On the other hand, RA 12065 designates the sea lanes and air routes suitable for the continuous and expeditious passage of foreign ships and aircraft through or over its archipelagic water and the adjacent territorial sea to prevent arbitrary international passage in the Philippine archipelago.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. over the weekend said he is focused on attending to the needs of the country and the Filipino people and has no intention to intervene in how Congress handles the impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte. In the latest episode of his podcast, President Marcos was told that the president has a say on whatever the decision would be on Duterte's impeachment case.
It's not I'm busy with the transport, with the rice, with all of the different things that we are doing. That nauubos ang oras ko doon. Put it bluntly. Wala naman akong papel doon sa impeachment.
Yes.
Claire Castro earlier said President Marcos would not make a move that may appear like he is meddling in the impeachment case of Duterte. The president, she said, is only open to dialogue that would focus on other pressing issues faced by the country. Castro nevertheless urged the Senate to consider the potential impact of the delays in the impeachment trial of Duterte on the Philippine economy. This was after the Makati Business Club urged the Senate to fulfill its constitutional duty by proceeding with the impeachment trial, as failure to uphold the rule of law could affect investor confidence in the long run.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. is focused on bringing significant and tangible changes to the country in his remaining years in office. In the latest episode of his podcast, the president said, "Giving Filipinos a more comfortable life is the legacy he wants to leave behind when his term ends in 2028. President Marcos is eyeing a quarterly assessment of government performance as part of his efforts to recalibrate his administration. The chief executive earlier announced a more rigorous performance review extending beyond the cabinet level. The ongoing performance evaluation covers not just cabinet secretaries and government heads, but also the government undersecretaries. President Marcos said he would not hesitate to let go of incompetent government officials. The Philippine president emphasized that he would not let the worst thing happen, wherein Filipinos would not feel the changes under his leadership.
We made a change for the better. This has been my guide in all the positions I've taken. The worst thing that can happen is umupo ka doon sa posisyon mo, na nagsilbi ka, umalis ka, walang pinagbago. So I absolutely insist that in 2028, when I leave this office, there are significant and tangible changes for the better in the life of each Filipino.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Saturday said the national government is working with host countries to protect the rights of overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, especially the assurance of safe and humane working conditions. Speaking before the Filipino community in Osaka, Japan, the president said his administration will do its best to ensure smooth employment and deployment processes for OFWs. President Marcos said better opportunities also await OFWs who wish to return home and stay for good. The chief executive said the government would continue implementing programs, projects, and services aimed at protecting and promoting the OFW's welfare.
Masigasig din ang ating pakikipag-ugnayan sa iba't ibang bansang tumatanggap ng ating manggagawa para makabuo at ng bilateral labor agreement upang matiyak natin na ligtas at makatao ang trabaho at nabibigyan ng pagkakataong umunlad ang ating mga kababayan. I recognize the weight of your sacrifice and the strength that it takes to provide for your families from afar. And that is why we will never tire of honoring you and finding ways to improve your lives. You are at the heart of our government's efforts, and you deserve not only our gratitude, but you deserve our full support.
President Marcos likewise recognized the significant role of the Filipino-Japanese youth in sustaining the Philippines' dynamic and enduring ties with Japan. The president expressed confidence that the two countries will continue to build a mutually stable, secure, and prosperous relationship.
I speak to all our kababayans, especially our youth, who play a part in our dynamic and enduring ties with Japan. Through you, we continue to write new pages in the history of the relations between our two countries. Through you, the spirit of friendship with our Japanese friends continues to thrive. We have every chance through you to build even stronger connections and shared values for a mutually stable, secure, and prosperous relationship between our two countries. This is why I hope you will join me and the Philippine nation in helping our community here in Japan to grow even more in love with the Philippines, to learn and embrace fully your Filipino identity, to support our nation's aspirations for unity, for peace, and for prosperity.
Philippine president was in Osaka for a working visit following the invitation of Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba Shigeru to attend the World Expo 2025 and visit the Philippine Pavilion.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippines expressed deep concern over the latest security developments in the Middle East, calling for restraint and diplomacy amid fears of escalating conflict involving Iran, Israel, and the United States. In a statement Sunday, the Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, said, "The Philippines is greatly concerned over the developments in the Middle East in these last few hours." The agency stressed that the safety and welfare of Filipinos in the region remain the government's top priority, with Philippine embassies in the Middle East on standby to assist affected nationals. The DFA said the welfare and safety of Filipinos in the region are of primordial concern, and the Philippine government will relentlessly continue to advance and prioritize their protection. The Middle East hosts an estimated 2.2 million Filipino workers, many of whom are based in Israel, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Bahrain. There are around 30,000 Filipinos in Israel, most of whom are employed in the caregiving and domestic service sectors. In Iran, there are 1,180 Filipinos, most of them married to nationals. The Philippines earlier raised Alert Level 3, or voluntary repatriation, in Israel and Iran due to the conflict, urging Filipinos to take necessary precautions and avail of repatriation assistance when needed. The statement comes as regional tensions flare following U.S. airstrikes targeting Iran's nuclear facilities. U.S. President Donald Trump warned of more attacks if Iran does not make peace. Iran said the U.S. opted for a dangerous military operation and aggression against its people, and that it reserved all options to defend itself. The U.S. airstrikes came as the Israel-Iran conflict entered its second week of back-and-forth attacks.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, the administration of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. will continue to work hard to ease the burden of ordinary Filipinos. This was underscored by Malacañang Palace amid the continuous drop in poverty incidents following the latest Social Weather Stations, or SWS, Self-Rate Poverty Survey showing that 42% of Filipinos no longer consider themselves poor. The SWS also noted a drop in self-rated poverty to 50% from 55%. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said President Marcos Jr. believes the government was able to lift more Filipinos out of poverty because of food availability and affordability, education, and social welfare. President Marcos also expressed confidence that poverty reduction will continue through other government initiatives aimed at addressing bottleneck issues, including those that affect small-scale businesses, public utilities, transportation services, and safety in the streets. Malacañang also welcomed the significant decrease in the number of Filipino families rating themselves as borderline, which was at a new record low of 8% that surpassed the previous low of 11% in December of 2024.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.